You're listening to the Marne Report.
Well, hey, Fort Stewart, Hunter Army Airfield, Molly here with your latest edition of the Marne Report Podcast. Today, I'm here with my friends, Mr. Bo Bradley from the Directorate of Plans, Training, Mobilization, and Security, and my friend Jim Krupp from Army Community Service. We're going to talk all about National Preparedness Month and readiness, right? Sue, how are you guys doing today?
We're doing phenomenal, and I'm fired up to have Jim here because he's always communicating something.
Doing great today, Molly. Thank you for having us. Appreciate being over here.
Okay, so Jim, we're going to start with you because Bo is a repeat offender on the podcast. So I want to know, tell me a little bit about what you do over at ACS.
Oh, thank you. So as you said, we're an ACS Army Community Service right across the street from the main post PX, and I work in the mobilization and deployment section, or MOBDEP as people call it.
Sure.
So what we do there is we work with units, command teams, throughout the deployment cycle. So prior to a deployment, while soldiers are deployed forward, and once they come back. So that's the deployment, in between, and the reintegration services. We work with the command teams and the families to make sure that we have them prepared, or as we said earlier, a state of readiness.
Sure.
So that's very important. We teach all of the SFRG classes, Soldier Family Readiness Group classes there in our building, Building 87. And we are also responsible for managing the EFAC, Emergency Family Assistance Center, in the event of severe weather conditions. So that's where Bo and I tie in together with DPTMS and ACS, working collaboratively to help the community in times of emergency.
Cool. Awesome. Okay, Bo, quick rundown. What's your elevator pitch of what you do with DPTMS?
I'm the installation emergency manager, and I used to work for ACS, and my battle buddy, Jim Krupp, and I go way back. So that's one of the reasons that I wanted to tag him in today.
Yeah.
Today.
In fact, I met Bo first day of work when we got evacuated for Hurricane Dorian.
Oh,
so
dang.
we go way back. It was, first day on the job, being evacuated due to hurricane, and being involved in that response and recovery portion of that event. So pretty good way to meet, and we've been buds ever since.
And here we are talking about National Preparedness Month. I mean, it's like you guys were destined to be here.
That's right.
All right. Tell me about National Preparedness Month first. What is it? Why do we need to recognize it?
So as the installation emergency manager, I've got a responsibility to ensure that the installation is prepared for catastrophic incidents, terrorist attacks, weather. But the background of it, President Bush in 2003 signed a Homeland Security presidential directive that directed the United States military to strengthen preparedness across all the military installations. So it's important, especially we live down here in southeast Georgia. We just came out of Hurricane Idalia. Mm-hmm. You and I put in some hours together in the EOC. So
yeah, we did.
September being National Preparedness Month, I just wanted to leverage our public affairs team to get more of the word out to both our soldiers, our families, and our Department of the Army civilians and retirees.
Sure. So what role do you play in this, Jim?
So I touch on that just a little bit. When we know that we have a weather storm coming in, Idalia was a great example, we start going through decision points. The command does, and all of the directors throughout the enterprise and the garrison start making decisions with regard to preparing, the installation for the emergency.
Sure.
ACS, plays a role in, again, all of our programs are soldier and family oriented, taking care of them. So we come in with preparing the families and the soldiers, making them aware of the event, tying in with PAO, and also, letting people know that services will still be provided very close up until the storm, approaches, because people start to get anxious and wonder, are we going to close? Are we going to, not suspend services and things of that nature? So we have a lot of programs, and we want to make sure that message gets out there. Primarily where ACS comes in is during the recovery portion after the event. That's when we go back to what I mentioned before, the EFAC, and making sure that we bring soldiers and families safely back to the installation, especially if we're evacuated, only after everything is up and safe for them to return. Mm-hmm. Then we provide those services in that EFAC so that everybody can come to one place, which is over at the main post chapel. That's where the EFAC is here at Fort Stewart, and over building 1286 at Hunter Army Airfield, we bring everyone together so that soldiers and families can come to one place to receive information and assistance that they need based on their own personal situation. So that's where ACS ties in. We also have our Army Community Service, AER, if soldiers and families have money needs or financial needs. Of course, we still have our FAP and the victim advocates. We make sure that they're available even during this. So we play a big role during, but mostly afterwards during the recovery.
Yeah, that's huge what you guys do. I mean, because that whole reunification process of making sure that the families get home safe if they're evacuated, or like what Bo mentioned, if there's some other type of catastrophic event, maybe where the families have been separated, that service that you guys offer in the EFAC, along with all of the other ACS services that are available, and the way you kind of pull the garrison entities together all in one location is like, wow, that's good stuff.
Right, and we do that, purposefully because we don't want people to have to run around and find those services.
Sure.
We also recognize that there are going to be families who have their soldiers that are, forward deployed, and they're anxious, they're nervous, they're not sure where to go, what to do. We try to make that easier for them, and we do that by tying in with PAO, getting that messaging out through all the social media platforms and making sure everybody knows what's available to them. At the end of the day, we want to get everyone back to normal or a state of readiness, if you will.
Yeah, sure. And then, Bo, I mean, like you said, the two of us spent quite a bit of time in the Emergency Operations Center here on Fort Stewart last week with the storm. But, I mean, that's really your role. It's more like where Jim is kind of front of house and he's dealing with customers, if you will, our community. You're behind the scenes. Tell me a little bit about what you do.
So the installation emergency manager, we have a tremendous responsibility. We synchronize efforts with our law enforcement, fire, DES, EMS, DPW, ACS, all of our key infrastructure people within the installation. And as we were getting closer and closer to the month of September, Jim and I have a great personal relationship too, and one of the pillars of ACS, as he already mentioned, is readiness. And I'm not an English major in any way, shape, or form, but preparedness and readiness sound very similar. So I reached out to Jim and I was like, let's partner.
Yeah.
And so it was like us working back in the day together. And Jim's been a great supporter of the DPTMS mission with our emergency functions. And he's got a seat at the table when we talk about recovery. And one of my passions more than anything else is when the soldier is deployed or TDY or doing the job of the military, our spouses may still be here at Fort Stewart and Hunter Army Airfield, and that's when I leverage Jim and his team to better get the message out, along with PAO, because I used to be that soldier forward worrying about, how my wife and son were operating. So I think it's a win-win situation with DPTMS and ACS because you can't spell preparedness without DPTMS or ACS.
Yeah. Yep. So, all right. In moving into this National Preparedness Month, do you have tips for our soldiers and family members in the community on what we should be doing all the time? I mean, because we don't need to be just worried about staying prepared in the month of September, right? This is a 24/7, 365 thing. So what should we always be keeping at the forefront of our minds?
Well, that's a good question. So I try not to give a too long of an answer, but it is important. What you just said is exactly right. We highlight it during times of emergency, but one of the things that we emphasize a lot in ACS and through the MOBDEP program is being at a state of readiness all the time, being prepared for whatever life may throw at you. Being in the military has unique challenges, and so we want soldiers and families in particular to be resilient, to be able to take care of themselves if their soldier is gone, whatever the situation may present. So I'd mentioned the SFRGs a little while ago. That's important because those are family organizations run by the commander. It's commander's program, but we're bringing the families together in one place within an organization so that we can make sure that everyone's getting the same information, official information from the command, that they can network together. They can bring their combined experiences to the table in their individual organizations to make sure that they can handle problems at the lowest level. That's something we say a lot in the military. Bo and I both are retired. Handle things at the lowest level. Well, we want families to be able to do that too.
Sure.
And we know that oftentimes, whether it be a weather event, it be an extended mission, it could be anything under the sun. Use your imagination. We have to make sure we're prepared.
Sure.
And one of the sayings that we have in our office in MOBDEP is you have soldier readiness plus family readiness equals unit readiness. So preparedness and readiness are very similar. If you have all three of those elements together, you and your individual family unit, you as an individual and your unit will be more prepared and able to more effectively do your job and come home safely back to your families.
Sure.
So that's what we stress all the time, not just in September. And then so that's where we come in and, we work together to get that message out and help families be prepared in whatever way we can.
I love it. Now, you said that you guys work a lot with the SFRGs. Some family members aren't as active, right, in their FRG. First of all, how do you have any advice on, one, why they should be active, or two, how to get them more active, and then three, do you guys branch out into the community? Like, do you just have people come to you for classes, or can people actually contact you guys for you to come out and speak, at an FRG meeting or at the housing office in Liberty Woods, anywhere like that? What do you guys do to, for outreach?
So great questions. The first thing I would say is why get involved? Because you're right, not everyone is involved. As soldiers, and I was probably guilty of it myself, we get a lot of information about things that are going on in the organization. Sometimes you go home and you tend to filter that information, right? Well, if you're a family member and you get involved in the SFRG, you're going to be getting the same information that the soldier does, because they're going to be regular meetings in the command teams, the first sergeant and the commander, the colonel and sergeant major are going to put that information out to the community, to the SFRG. It also allows you to be involved in what's going on in the organization and making it better than you found it. But I go back to the information piece. Information is power. So if you know what's going on, you're better able to prepare yourself. So I hear people a lot of times say, well, I don't know what's happening. I don't know what resources are available to me. I don't know what programs and services. Get involved in your SFRG and you're going to find that out.
Sure.
If you don't involve, you're not going to know. One of the ways we do outreach, we have a schedule of classes that we do every Wednesday. They're at Building 87. We do them on a rotational basis. But if a unit has a need for us to come out to where they're at, we'll go. We're mobile. MOBDEP, all of ACS programs are mobile. We will go out to where you're at, whether it be to your unit footprint. We've gone to J.F. Gregory Park.
Cool.
There in Richmond Hill. We'll go out here to the pond with DPTMS, DFMWR, excuse me. Yeah, Holbrook Pond.
Yeah.
And we'll go out and we'll meet units out there when they're doing organizational events. So we'll go to you. And so
Awesome.
we get that out. We market that similar to what we're doing now. We do podcasts. We've done some Marne Minutes. We did the event with PAO a couple weeks ago where we tied in and everybody gave a pitch on their program.
Sure.
And what we ask is that people get on the social media pages, but we also ask the organizations to hang that information on their unit pages.
Yeah.
Because that's the best way to get it. If you're new to any installation, first place you ought to look is the Garrison homepage. Look at all the program services, your unit, and then start looking at your unit's page. That's where that information is going to be, and then you can get yourself involved. So I think I answered all three of the questions.
You
Okay.
did.
Right, in order? Okay.
Good job.
Awesome.
You did in order. I can't believe you remembered. Nice work.
Tagging in on this, DPTMS, we don't really give classes like ACS does, but coming into hurricane season, our staff was able to support Jim in his deployment readiness expos, and we went to Third ID, and we conducted severe weather briefings to the senior command spouses. So anything that we can do to get the message out there for our soldiers and families, we want to do. And Jim mentioned websites and everything, and I got to give a shameless plug because it's part of the requirements of National Preparedness Month, but it's a website called ready.army.mil. Everything is on the digital platforms nowadays, and there's tremendous amount of checklists for severe weather, emergency plans, and even gives you little pointers on how to build a go kit.
Awesome.
or go bags. So preparedness and readiness, they're kind of the same thing, but whatever Jim and I can do, DPTMS and ACS and even our garrison as a whole to make the lives of our soldiers and families a little bit more easier, I'm going to try to do it. And if I have to ask for forgiveness, I'll ask for forgiveness too, but it's that important to us.
Yeah, it's important to us too, and we really appreciate y'all's mission and what you're doing for both Fort Stewart and Hunter Army Airfield. It's needed. So thank you both very much for that.
Yeah, and you mentioned a tip, and as Bo was talking, because it came up during this potential hurricane that we were going to have.
Sure.
A lot of people start talking and wondering about, what do I do if I have to evacuate? Have that plan now. Don't just drive off somewhere, and hope you have enough gas to get to wherever you're going. Have a plan. Think about it now, but also make sure you have a plan for your animals. I don't know if anyone's got animals. I do, and I love them. They're members of our family, and you have to make sure that you have a plan for them as well. So those are little tips I tell people ahead of time. Think about it now when you don't need it, and then when it happens, if it happens, you're going to be much better prepared, like we're talking about. This is this month, and you're going to be able to get back to that state of readiness much quicker so that you can go back to do your job.
Perfect. Love it. Is there anything else that you guys want to add?
We have a full-scale exercise coming up in November. Spouses, stay watching the U.S. Army Garrison platforms. And, Jim, it's been a pleasure, my brother.
As always, we stay connected. We cross paths a lot, and it's a pleasure being up here working together. I like getting out here, getting that message out, and making sure that we can get the soldiers and the families prepared, ready, and handle whatever life throws at them.
I love it. Great message you guys are sending here. Again, just thank you both so much for being on the podcast. And seriously, anytime you want to come back, come on back here. But that would be it for this week's edition of the Marne Report Podcast. This is Molly.
Thanks, Molly.
With Bo and Jim, and we're signing off.
Boom.
The Army Maintenance app is a quick and easy way for soldiers, Army families, and DoD civilians to submit work orders in order to maintain their barracks, family housing areas, and workspaces. ARMA enhances the ability to securely submit and access up-to-date information about the status of work orders that have been submitted, as well as provide feedback once the work is accomplished. Users can access ARMA through the Digital Garrison app or by visiting armymaintenance.com. No issue is too large or too small for ARMA. Get connected directly to the service you need, no matter the time of day or night. Create your online profile today at armymaintenance.com.